Welcome to Life Picks Relationships, helping you understand and enliven your marriage through the various perspectives and experiences of others who found a way to prioritize what's really important in life. From new love to those that have weathered the storms, let's get ready to take your relationships to the next level with your host, ST.
Hey Life Pixers, are you ready to understand your marriage even better today? I am super excited for today's episode as we've got a couple and a therapist on at the same time. Yes, my favorite types of episodes. Now, before I get into today's episodes, or I should say while we're getting into today's episodes, I have two questions for you. Number one, have you downloaded the official app yet? The one that we learned all about in the previous episode with Zach, where you are going to go and try new things, go on new dates, open communications about sex, and just get to know your partner much more, understand each other much better. If not, go and do that now while you are listening. And at the same time, while you're listening, if you haven't yet subscribed to the show, do that now. Now, for today's podcast, we have first a psychotherapist and the host of the Killing Cupid podcast. I'm going to put all our links in the show notes, killingcupid.com. Nadia Ani, thank you so much for being here. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I am so bad at this, but I am super excited to get this started. And before you tell us about yourself, and I want to hear more about what you do, we have a couple, Keizer and Derek Dehanke, who host the 80 Movies Montage, where they go and review 80 movies. Again, I'm going to put all their links in the show notes so you can go and find them. So Nadia, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I guess I'll start with my professional stuff. So I am a licensed therapist. I graduated from Columbia University School of Social Work with advanced clinical studies. And I worked for a long time in trauma and community mental health. And then as I got further into my career, I started working more in the realm of relationships because obviously I could go on about this for a long time, but most of the relationships that we have really dictate the quality of our life, and how we manage our relationships has a huge impact on that. And so that got me super interested. And I wanted to branch out and be a little bit more independent and explore different stuff. And so I started working in relationship coaching, and I started doing a lot of work around codependency and narcissism, being ready to start dating. And I worked for that in a long time. And most recently, I have been working with Exit USA. We help members of the violent far right to get counseling and resources to leave and reclaim their lives.
So cool. Awesome. Okay. And what about you, Anna and Derek? You want to tell us about yourself and how you guys met?
Sure. Yeah. I could, I'll kick things off.
All right.
I'm Anna and my husband is Derek, and we've been together now. Actually, today is officially 49 months of marriage. Last month was our anniversary, so we've been married a little bit over 4 years. And we met each other over the very romantic interwebs. We met online.
Okay, Cupid.
Yeah, okay, Cupid. And that was, let's see here. Let me do some math. That will be 10 years this coming winter. So that's how the magic all began.
So awesome. So if you had to look at your relationship, what would you say is one thing that you guys are awesome at?
I would say, this is Derek, by the way. I would say it's our communication, actually. Mm-hmm. And certainly during the last year of it being a pandemic, it's been as important as ever. I don't want to say now more than ever, because I've heard that phrase a billion times over the last year, but it's true. Like being able to communicate, I think has been, for me at least, the one of the things that we are awesome at, because we're able to talk about how we're feeling during all of the crazy stuff that's happened over the last year. And what am I trying to say? The communication has helped, at least for me, to know that Anna has my back, or is there to support me, and that I'm there to support her when either one of us is going through a particularly difficult time. So I would say communication. And that was a really lengthy response, which makes me wonder if I am good at communication.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think that just kind of piggybacking a little bit on what Derek said, in addition to, the truth for me is that there's literally nothing I can't say to him. I know that I can tell him whatever I'm feeling, however I think. I know that he is never going to judge me for it. There's so much trust and compassion, I think, in the way that we speak to each other, but then also a lot of laughter. That's been something that has, I think, always been part of our relationship. But like he said, the last year in particular, the fact that we can still laugh is just so important to me. And I mean, he literally makes me laugh every day. I wrote it into my vows to him that like, that's something that I always will treasure about our relationship, is that he's just hilarious and can always put a smile on my face.
So what would you tell someone from your own personal experience who doesn't have such good communication skills?
I think for me, it's just finding a way to start. Like you're not going to necessarily, in my mind, open the floodgates and solve that problem, but it would start with just trying to have that first, I guess, acknowledgement. Like we have a tough time talking about things and picking something to try to talk more about, to get to know more about why it is that there is a challenge in talking about something and trying to open it up. That's what I'd say. You were about to say something. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think for me as a partner, I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that Derek knows that he can talk to me and that I'm not going to judge him. That's something that, you know, when we have had conversations about maybe a particularly vulnerable topic, I try to reassure him that there's literally nothing that he can say that's going to make me think a certain way of him. And so I think that as a partner, there's, you know, kind of taking, I guess, the leap of faith to be communicative with your partner, but also to let them know that they are safe with you and that they can trust you to express themselves and be heard and not be judged for it.
It's a way better answer.
Okay, now Naida, what do you, Naida? Can you tell me?
Nadia.
What? Naida.
Nadia.
Yeah. Nadia, you want to tell us, what do you think from your professional perspective, first of all, about their communication, and then what could other people do also to improve their communication?
So number one, I mean, I think it's great that you've made communication a priority and that you can put anything on the table, because I think that, you know, what I see a lot is like sometimes we, you know, internalize our own assumptions about what the other person is thinking or feeling, or maybe what they can or can't handle. And then we might end up kind of going around an issue and we don't actually resolve it because we're also not getting their perspective about what the issue is, because we're putting all of our own stuff onto it. So I think it's great that you guys have, you know, out of the gate, really put that as a priority, and also that trust and compassion are such a big part of your relationship. One of the things you said was that you have a tough time kind of figuring out what the challenge is. And sometimes that's, you know, and I think that's totally normal. You know, a lot of times we go into something and something rubs us the wrong way, and it's like not actually what happened. Or maybe there's something else that triggered us and we need to talk it through to get to that point. And I think it's great that you guys have created that foundation where you can do that. In the general sense, I think that, you know, when it comes to communication, the most important thing to keep in mind is just to be open and let the process take its course, because sometimes you're not going to start off by saying, you know, when you did this, I felt that. Like sometimes you just don't have the privilege or the, you know, to have that information from the start. And that's really what that dialogue is there for, is to help you both kind of work through that process to figure out what the issue is so you can move forward together. So I think that's great that you guys have really prioritized that. And, you know, whenever you're trying to resolve something, you know, just trust the process and just communicate about it and see what happens. And in those conversations, as those things come up, as those things flow, that's how you're going to open up that space to be able to, you know, identify what the issue is. And, you know, if you have a space of trust and compassion and trust, then that's the perfect environment for that. And I think that's great.
I like that so much. Do you guys have any?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, can't say it any better than the expert.
Awesome. Okay, so what's one thing that's challenging for you
in terms of communication?
In terms of marriage in general?
Ooh, marriage in general. It's tough for us.
What comes to mind is that it has, although like our communication has certainly been an asset over the last year, I think it's been a challenge just because we both had our normal like routines as far as going to work.
Yeah.
Like knowing, okay, this is like our separate time for our jobs. and everything has been combined together. We're like around each other every second of every day of every week.
24/7.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been great because it has been a source of huge support. Like, I don't know how I would have gotten through it without having you with me this entire time. But it's also like been a challenge just making sure that we give each other like space within a small space over an extended period of time. So that, I think that's been something that is a challenge.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, definitely, I think the last year probably has taught everybody just how small their living spaces might be when you're home all the time. But I think that's probably, I think, especially over the last year, the thing that we've both had to keep in mind is that, you know, we do live in a relatively small space. We both are working from home. I mean, it was an adjustment for both of us because I already was working from home.
So I moved into her office.
Right,
basically.
exactly. So there was like me having to accommodate giving up some of my space.
This guy suddenly is there doing work all the time.
And then for him, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that you definitely do kind of a work home, you know, work is for work, home is for home.
I've always tried to have pretty solid boundaries as far as like when I'm in the office, I'm at work, when I'm at home, I'm at home. And so all those boundaries have long since been like blown clear out of the water.
Yeah. So I think that, and what I think we've tried to do over the last year, we've, you know, we go for our walks like alone, you know, we try to give each other a little bit of space. You know, I get out so he can have his time at home, and then he does the same for me. So then I have my time at home.
We walk together too sometimes.
Sometimes we walk together. But I would say that that's important. And then, you know, I don't think in particular it has been an issue, but, you know, not taking it personally if you want to just like have a little bit of time to yourself. And it's healthy. It's healthy to have that. So what do you think?
So you said that what has been sort of like the biggest challenge kind of as like an external force in your relationship has been this being together 24/7. And, you know, that is one of the hardest things about COVID is, you know, when especially Anna, you were already working from home. So you had to renegotiate your working and home boundaries and your office boundaries. And then Derek, you had to negotiate what your own work and home boundaries were. And you guys kind of had to consolidate that together. Can you tell me a little bit more though about how that has been challenging for the two of you as a couple? And can you tell me a little bit more about what that has brought up for you?
I mean, I guess for me, it's remembering that like, I mean, to just, I guess, put it bluntly, like, this isn't Derek's fault that Derek has to be home all the time. You know?
Fair enough.
He's like making a choice to do. And so I will be totally honest that like, me having worked from home for a couple of years prior to all of this happening, you get a little territorial, you know, about having your space when you go into work mode. And so that definitely was an adjustment. And for the life of me, I don't know why it took us so long to figure out our workspace. Like, I think because we didn't think it was going to go on for this long.
I think that's true. I think that when the work from home thing started, we thought it was going to be a couple of weeks and then a couple of months. And we didn't really seriously start to, I guess, optimize the workspace, the space that we have to create another separate real working spot, because we were just kind of sharing, like some days you would use your desk and other days I would use it and kind of like move around.
And it really wasn't working for either of us.
No, it didn't work. So we just kind of took the dining area and converted that into just a full-time desk. And so now we each have like our separate areas to work. And for me, part of the challenge is like, I don't know if I'm the same person at work that I am at home. It's almost like my mind goes into, in some ways, like a different frame of mind to engage in some of the discussions that I have. I'm an attorney. And so it's like a different, I hope I don't talk to you, Anna, the way that I talk to. No. So like, that's part of it. That's part of the challenge and part of those boundaries and trying to like make everything work.
I mean, I will say that like, and again, this is like, it just is what it is. It's not anybody's fault, but, because his now workspace is essentially an offshoot of our kitchen, like when it's lunchtime and I want to make something to eat, I'm like, oh man, I know he's on an important call right now. And so like, I have to like hold off because I don't want to make noise.
But it's fine because when I'm on those calls, everyone else is dealing with the same thing. And I've been on many like quote unquote important calls where I'll hear on one hand from somebody on the call, okay, everybody, this is super confidential. Don't talk about anything. And then you see like their kid run through the background and I'm like, awesome.
I mean, I have far fewer types of interactions like that. I'm very rarely needing to take like a work call or a work Zoom or what have you. But I have found that one of the simplest things that helps me kind of just quite like figuratively, but also literally like shut off and try to like focus on what I need to accomplish in a certain day is I just shut the bedroom door.
Yeah.
And that helps me kind of like recreate the semblance of like my own space. And, I might still be able to hear him. I actually still wear headphones because I need to have that barrier.
We both wear headphones.
Yeah, we both wear headphones so that we try to not hear each other, to be honest. So that's been just those little things to try to like recreate as much as possible. Like, I mean, I don't want to, it sounds like kind of hokey to put it this way, but like just kind of your sacred space and having your own space to yourself during a work day. And then honestly, like once we're done for the day, it does kind of shut off for me, and then it's just our time at night.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Yeah.
So when you said it's not Derek's fault that he has to be home all the time, that was that I think was so well put because I actually relate to a lot of what you said. I've always worked from home. And so when quarantine hit, I was used to having my own desk. I had my own office. And then it was like, well, now everybody needs to use the desk because now everybody has to work. And it's like, but it's my desk. I bought the desk and I put the desk here. And I'm the one who needs quiet in the living room. And it's hard to like, and I totally understand what you mean about it can be a little bit territorial, but at the same time, it's like, you have especially around work, the way that we work, the way that we do our work, it's like we have other professional obligations and we really have to make sure that's kind of left untouched. And that's always kind of moves forward the way that it does. And so that, it can be really tough to renegotiate all of those boundaries between like, all right, well, I also, we also all just need to have personal space sometimes. We all just need to be alone by ourselves to decompress and to do our own thing. And so, trying to uphold both of these two super important things, your work and your relationship, trying to balance all of those three things, super heavy things all at the same time is really, really difficult. And I think you've done a great job of saying, you know what, like, yes, it is frustrating. And I can say that, yes, it is frustrating to not have my own space. And sometimes I just want to use, well, you didn't say you just want to use a desk, but yeah, like it's recognizing that, hey, I feel territorial and I'm having to adjust, but then also being able to work together and to hold space for like, yeah, it's okay that you feel that way. And it's okay that we're in this situation together and we're going to work together to make it, to find what works for both of us. And, I think I've seen that a lot, especially in quarantine, where it's like, I don't think anybody thought it was going to go on for this long when it did. And we don't think about how we, where do we work? We don't think about those things. And so having to sit down and like really collaborate on that and deciding what's going to be best for both of us. What do you need from your environment? And giving each other, not only physical space, but then also to hold space for each other to say what you need and being able to in compromising that for each other, I think is great.
Thank you. I mean, to Derek's earlier point, again, like, I don't know why it took us so long to just like reevaluate. I think, you kind of just naturally go to, okay, here's a work desk and we only have one work desk. So we'll just share that work desk. And at first that seems like the most fair thing to do. And then it's like, okay, well, this is going on longer than either of us anticipated. And that's when we finally just kind of broke out of our like routine way of thinking and saying, okay, this dining room table is no longer going to be a dining room table because even Derek didn't have his dedicated space. And so now this is just literally his workspace and nothing else.
I think we had, I got like an external monitor from work before, like 2 days before the work from home started.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of camped out in your desk.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not something that could be moved around easily. I think eventually we realized that, the dimensions of this dining room table are pretty close to the dimensions of these
of a desk.
desks. So we can just move stuff over, and this little corner, the dining room, will just become a little office. And really importantly, for my work laptop and all the Zoom meetings that I'm on for that, the lighting is really good.
Mm-hmm. I think hopefully, I feel like we can't, possibly be the only couple that's had to kind of think outside the box and figure out more innovative ways to make that space, that limited space, work and be able to, try to share say the word for me.
Equitable?
Thank you.
Yeah, we probably took longer.
Yeah, we took longer. But we got there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if this is just me overthinking, like totally the type. Maybe you could tell me, but do you think it shows something about them? Nothing bad, right? Just like as a sign of something else. The fact that it took them a little bit longer to go and figure it out. Obviously, no one knew how long it would take. And it's one thing if it's just for 2 days or a week or so. But does that say something about the relationship?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's totally natural because, we've never been put into this position before where we would have to consider those kinds of things. And especially if you're used to, like, if you go into an office, you just work at your desk and that's all there is to it. And then when you work at home, you can organize your environment how it suits you. And, most of the time we don't ever have to think about it beyond that. And so, yeah, I think it's just a totally, it was just a new situation that came up, and we don't, when things like this happen, we don't realize that something needs to change until that gnawing feeling sometimes gets a little bit deeper and we're like, okay, actually something needs to change. So no, some people are more particular about their workspace than others. And so, it really just depends on, what works for you. And, it sounds like you guys got to a point where you realized that something needed to change. And then you decided that, all right, well, we're going to change it. We're going to figure out what works for us. So no, I think that is a totally normal response to something like this.
Yeah, totally normal. Just like you said, I guess it's more not so much about the relationship, but more about like their relationship to their actual workspace versus to each other. Because like I could think of some people who, like, I know that I worked with them and they came home and right away they were like, no, they made a place for their partner. Not at all that one's better, one's worse, but they just know they need their space for work. So they won't let their marriage in. They won't let their partner go and use their desk, their space. Not to be mean, but that's just because that's how they think. So instead, they'll rather help them find a different place that they could go and work, which you guys afterwards did. So there's no like better or worse, but I think it's more personality maybe than their actual relationship.
Anna was really great about letting me into her office, basically letting me use her desk. And I consistently felt bad about taking this space that I knew was a place that was hers, that she had put together, that she used every day. So even when we did a split where like every other day we would kind of trade off, I didn't really like that because I still felt like I was kind of like taking away her ability to focus. It wasn't really helping me with my ability to focus. And ultimately, I think what literally the straw was my back. Because I just couldn't, we were working from the dining table, but it was still a dining room table. It was just with, it wasn't
set up
not with an office chair, nothing set up correctly. So like working, sometimes there's just not time or a chance to, like, I was so busy with work that it was difficult to actually set aside the time and acknowledge this might go on for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So when all of those things kind of like coalesced, I just moved the table around into a corner and set it up. And remember, I brought you in and said, hey, check this out. What do you think?
I give credit to you because definitely I don't know if I would have even thought to have like made that suggestion.
I pulled out the tape measure. And I was doing all these measurements. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you'll see.
And I'll admit that I'm a creature of habit. So having that section of our home completely revamped to be his home office at first, I was like, I'm not so sure. But it it was completely the right call. And I'm glad that he prompted that.
The straw that broke Derek's back. Yeah, but I mean, that's great. Like sometimes you just, you don't know what works for you or what you like until you're in there. And so, I think it's also great that you both took initiative to say, hey, wait a sec, this is what I need. Now let me help you figure out and give you what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you saw right away in the beginning of COVID, those people in good relationships, the relationships just got better, and those in the bad ones just got worse. So just a proof of it. Now, guys, if there was a question, what is a question that you always wanted to ask a therapist?
Ooh. Well, I mean, I don't mean to have this whole conversation revolve around COVID, but I will admit that I'm very curious, what the change in your work style has been over the last year, because I can only imagine the new scenarios that have popped up. And, I would actually, Derek and I were talking about this and more in terms of child development and that sort of thing. But we were talking about how like development experts must be in real time trying to figure out how to deal with how children have been affected by all this. And so I'm assuming that as a relationship therapist, it's the same, that in real time, you're trying to kind of work with these couples that are facing problems that they've never had to face before.
So do you mean like in terms of like my own personal work life, or like how I see this in like the broader scope and how this has been affecting couples like in general?
To be honest, I'm fascinated by both.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, whatever one you're going to pick, I need to answer to the other one also.
Okay.
So you want to take it.
So, I mean, for my own personal work style, because I've always worked from home, I realized that I used to think I was a very sharing person, and not that I'm not, but it's just when it comes to my work, like I like things to be a certain way. I like to get up very early. I like to have my coffee. I like to read. Then I like to get, I have like a very specific way that I like to do things. And it kind of messes up my flow when I'm not able to do that. And when COVID first hit, I was living with roommates, and it was really frustrating to me that I had all these people in my workspace and I couldn't, just kind of, do what I wanted to do. But then I realized that actually I need to take responsibility for this. So, all right, how can I set some boundaries about this? Maybe I can set up a different space in my room. What actually helps me to stay motivated? What is it that because, usually during the day, I would just kind of, I would work on this, or then I would work on that, and just kind of, take it as it comes. But when you don't have those same, you don't have the same freedom just to kind of go off and do your thing. I had to really hone in on like, all right, what do I need? Like, what's a workspace that I feel good in? What do I, what actually makes me feel productive, and how can I do that? And what do I need to do more of? What do I need to set boundaries around? What do I need to ask for? And that really helped me to think about my own productivity and my own relationship to work. And, I live with my partner right now, and that was something that was really big difference for me, because I'd never, we also share a room, so I couldn't just go to my own room. And so it also really opened up a lot of good dialogue around like boundaries and spaces. And he works very differently than me. And so, how can we kind of create both of those environments within the small space that we have? And that was actually really helpful, and also helped us to get to know each other better, and, also to collaborate and to communicate and to work together on something that actually felt really nice. And I do think that is something that I think a lot of us are struggling with it, because it is hard to, when we're working in an office, we don't know what, we're not really given the option for like, I like to read for an hour before I start work. Well, you can't do that in an office, but when you're working from home, you can do that. You can kind of take your time, and, you have a lot more freedom. But then within that, we also have to ask, what do I want? And sometimes, if we're not really connected to that, it can be easy to feel like, oh gosh, like, why am I not happy right now? And sometimes we end up projecting that onto our partner rather than taking ownership of, well, actually, I need to change my environment, and there's something that's really not working for me. But if we're not connected to that, we're not really connected to ourselves and what we need and how we're actually feeling, it can be very easy to project that onto the other person, especially when they're in our space 24 hours a day.
So that's really interesting on a personal level. Now, on a more general aspect, what do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I think that COVID is really forcing us to ask ourselves, what do I want and what do I need, and really taking responsibility for that, because it's so easy to have those boundaries blurred. And it's very easy to kind of feel like, well, it's kind of, I think it kind of like go two ways. Sometimes, you might not be sure of what you need, and then your partner is because maybe you actually want space and you're not aware that that's actually what's causing the issue. So, like Anna, you said earlier, you realize, wait, it's not Derek's fault that he's here all the time. So, if you hadn't been aware of that, maybe it could have been very easy to get angry with him or start to kind of pick at him or start to get snippy with each other and kind of start to get on each other's nerves. But you're not actually going to the real source of the conflict, right? And the real source of the conflict is there's something that I'm not happy with, or I'm feeling frustrated that I don't have enough personal space, or I am not comfortable working at this desk and it hurts my back and I don't like this. But if you're not communicating about it, and I think that a lot of couples, because we've not been in situations where these kinds of things come up, and we haven't, it's very easy to lose boundaries, even in a pre-COVID relationship. It's very easy to not have good boundaries with your partner. And the time where you're having to negotiate so many boundaries between your work, between your relationship, who's taking care of the kids, who's
dinner.
Sorry?
Who's making dinner?
Yeah. And so there are all these different boundaries and expectations and needs that have to be negotiated now that didn't have to. And I think that one of the biggest things that couples are struggling with is that they've not been in a situation where they've had to address that. And so there's just all of these frustrated feelings because this is not an easy time and it's very frustrating to be stuck in your house regardless. And then having another person there all the time that you have to take into consideration can just make that even more difficult. And if you don't know how to join together and you don't know how to identify what your own feelings are and how to work with each other to work on that and to decide this is what I need and this is what you need, and then how can we work on those things together? That can be really, really challenging.
Yeah, I always say that before communication comes self-awareness, because if you don't know what you need, then you can't really go and communicate that to your partner or to anyone for that matter.
Oh, absolutely. Did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, answers my question.
Okay.
Sure.
Derek, do you have a question?
Yeah, my question is similar but kind of different, and it starts from, we've talked about the fact a few times that we weren't sure how long it was going to last, and it took a while to really get our space into something that really worked best for both of us. And now that we have achieved that, shortly I will be going back into the office. And so I guess the question I have is, what advice would you have for us now that we've kind of achieved some kind of equilibrium, working together, being around each other all the time? I don't know how much of a shock to the system it's going to be when we're suddenly not around each other all the time.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot actually, and how I'm going to feel, because
I know you said, yeah,
I've said it. I'm like so used to you being home now, and and I'm getting kind of like sad about the idea of you being gone, because I do think that although it was under challenging circumstances, I feel very lucky that I got to spend literally an entire year with you every day, pretty much all day.
Yeah. It's been challenging in some ways, but it's been awesome for the most part. And so now just when we got used to it, it's going to be like going away to some degree.
Yeah, no, it's hard, like you spend 24 hours with somebody and then when they're not there, it's like, damn, like this is so weird. You're gone.
Exactly.
Especially for you, Anna, because you're going to, I don't want to, rub salt in the wound, but I mean, you being in the house and then, because you're used to Derek being there, but he's having a change of environment and your environment is staying the same. You're going to still be in the house. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be an adjustment, but I guess, so let me ask you this though. I guess sort of what I'm hearing though, is that actually, wait, no, I don't have a question. Let me back up. So I guess, what I'm hearing is that you're going to miss each other and you're not sure of what to do with that feeling once the time comes for Derek to go back to the office. And it sounds like you guys have grown a lot in your relationship. It sounds like you guys have gotten to know each other on a much deeper level. It seems like you guys have had to really, help each other to learn things about each other and then also yourselves, and to be there to support each other while you decide like, what do you want your relationship with work to be, or what kind of environment works best for you? And how do you manage your boundaries, and having those really raw conversations and being really communicative about that. And, I think that you can definitely carry that over into the post-COVID world. Anna, if you're at home and you're feeling like, damn, I really miss Derek, well, maybe there's a way that you can, and, of course, likewise, how can you guys communicate with each other during the day? And how can you guys spend more quality time with each other outside of the office? because even though you guys are spending the day together, you're not necessarily really engaged with each other because you're both working. So what would it look like for you to have a little bit more of that connection at night? Do you guys normally watch TV, or do you normally, or maybe you guys do normally like cook together? Do you spend time planning a meal together? Do you do trips together where you can spend more one-on-one time? Do you have, how are you really spending your time? So sometimes it can be, just because it's like quality over quantity. Just because you guys are just not spending as much time together doesn't mean that you still can't have that same level of fulfillment with the quality that you spend together, the quality of time that you spend together.
I mean, I think one thing that I definitely think, especially given everything over the last year, that I'm looking forward to is the opportunity to get to do little trips together. That's one of my favorite things to do with him.
We had just started going to the beach to go for either walks or jogging.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now we will just go for a drive and get some coffee and drive around on the weekends. There's not really, I mean, things are opening up a little bit more, but we're still pretty cautious and haven't really gone in for indoor dining or anything yet. But yeah, we'll probably do some of those things. I feel like there's going to be an emphasis on us having the ability to do things out of the house.
Because I mean, by the time, I still remember the days when you would come home from work.
It wasn't that long ago. Really. I mean, it was, but it kind of.
And I mean, usually that left us with time for dinner and then maybe an hour or two of just kind of relaxing. And I mean, we definitely, definitely TV watchers.
We got our shows.
We have our shows. And so, I mean, that I do consider quality time because we are engaging with each other. We're not just like he might have his Switch and I might have my computer, but we're constantly like talking to each other.
I've been really watching the shows around. We're either talking about what's on or just
So I think just making sure that we are still engaging, but also, I mean, if I'm being really honest, I'm going to have to get used to feeling lonely during the day in those first couple months when you're gone, and just realizing that that's just a transition I'm going to have to make and get used to that. So that's probably something that I just have to kind of accept. But also, I'll just be so excited when you do come home and be mindful of making the most of that time. And then also, I definitely am somebody who puts a lot into planning little things and having those fun things. Some summertime's coming up, like Derek said, things are beginning to open up by us. And so hopefully having some stuff to look forward to. As far as
got my second dose on Friday. Yeah, you're getting your second soon.
We'll be fully vaxxed by Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So so looking forward to doing stuff together again.
But safely.
Do you have any specific advice for Anna on how she could be a little bit less lonely? Not what she could do with the loneliness, not to suppress the loneliness in any way, how she could more handle it and make the most of it.
So, I mean, right now you're only looking forward to this feeling of, oh, this sounds bad. That's not what I meant to say. You're thinking about the things that you're going to lose. I'm going to lose time with Derek. I'm not going to spend as much time with him now. But at the same time, because right now you're thinking about this, you're seeing that change, which is a loss of time spent together, right? But there's also things that like you said, you're going to gain from that. So what's going to kind of bridge that gap? Both of you are going to be vaccinated soon. You guys can start going back on little trips together. When Derek comes home from work, now maybe you guys can spend more time planning, what do you guys want to cook for dinner? What's a recipe that you guys always wanted to try? How can you really, and give yourself something to look forward to, so it doesn't just feel like this loss or this thing because I think that's really the worst, feeling like you're losing something, but you're not getting anything back. And that's not true. You're getting a lot of things back. You guys are going to be able to go out and go on your trips again. You're going to be able to do indoor dining soon. You're going to be able to go out and do things that you used to love to do that you haven't been able to for the last year. Everything has a season and everything has something positive, and sometimes things also have challenges too. So I think the biggest thing that you guys can work on together is, what are those things that you want to look forward to? What are those gains that you guys are looking forward to. And also not only what you have to look forward to, but also what are you guys going to plan and create together? Because that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think even the fact of being excited that Derek's coming home, it's like something a simple thing that you've been missing the past year and could just add so much to the relationship.
Definitely.
Okay, so for our final question, a question that I ask everyone, how do you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, connection, or intimacy?
Ooh.
Without using love, connection, or intimacy? Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Best friend.
That's
a good one.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it is like breaking it. Okay. So it's like,
no, it could be a word. It could be a phrase. It could be a whole book if you want.
Okay. Yeah. I'm
elaborate.
Yeah. I'm not as good with this like concise answers. I don't mean to like go back to what I was saying earlier, but I do think laughter is a big part of it, because there's, as we've kind of been talking about this entire time, there has been a lot that's happened in the last year, but then even just over the course of our relationship together, we've endured a lot. We've endured the loss of loved ones. We've endured, health challenges for both of us. And I think that what gets you through is being able to laugh together. I know not every moment is appropriate for laughing, but it really, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to me that I have somebody in my life who can make me feel joyful and can make me forget when I'm having a really tough day or a really tough, month or, what have you. And I feel beyond grateful that the person in my life has that capacity to make me feel happiness, even when really I don't want to feel that way. Like, I just feel very appreciative of what he's able to do. And that's part of the reason why, he's everything to me. I didn't use the word.
Yeah, it's so close.
Put it a different way. Everybody knows what I mean.
Just your laugh and you hear through it.
My turn. So I'll give you somewhere between a quote in a book. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. What I think about what really makes an extraordinary relationship, to me, it's not about, it is connection, but it is not only that. What specifically is how you help each other, how you influence each other, and who you influence each other to be, and who you are as a result of the relationship. And also how, because I think really an extraordinary relationship makes us want to be better, not only for ourselves, but then also to be our best for the other person. And recognizing that and growing and adapting, so you can become closer, so that you can, so that, I'm not going to use that word, so that bond that you have will strengthen, but then also so you can be there for that person when they need you. And to understand, hey, you know what, my partner really needs, my partner feels better when I can be there and help them, make them laugh when they're having a bad day. Okay, well, how can I provide that with them? Is there something about the way that I'm acting that might make that a little bit more difficult? Or how can I be there and show up for them? And I think, getting to really understand each other on a deep level, and I think being able to understand each other on a deep level, and then also to help each other be the person that you want to be, but then also to be inspired by each other to be somebody even better.
I love that so much. Your answers are great, all of you. This was an amazing episode. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, this has been so interesting. Nadia, I really appreciate you being able to come into this blind and be able to you have said so many things that have, especially when you talked about there being a season for everything, that really stuck with me. And I just really appreciate you, taking the time to kind of talk with us about where we are in our lives. And I really appreciate your expertise and just the time and attention that you gave to us today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for trusting me with this. I really appreciate it. I had a great time with you guys, and I think you guys are doing great. And I'm excited to see how everything goes for you in this post-COVID world. Hopefully sooner than later.
Well, and ST, thank you so much for having us on. It's been our honor to be part of it. Thank you for, choosing us to, I'm sure you have just so many options. And so thank you for choosing us to be part of your show. Really appreciate that. Again, like the time and attention that you've put towards us.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed speaking with all of you. It was really interesting to see just what you thought an idea of Derek and Anna and how awesome they are, and you really pulled out the good parts of them. Post-COVID will be an interesting world, and I think this gave a lot of insight to a lot of people.